The story opens in a cluttered laboratory. Numerous clocks tick simultaneously, all showing the same time. A news broadcast plays in the background, mentioning the theft of plutonium from a nuclear power facility. Marty McFly enters the lab, calling out for Doc but finding no one home. He leaves his skateboard on the floor, which rolls into a case of plutonium hidden under a table. Unaware of its presence, Marty proceeds to use his key to activate the giant amplifier. He plugs in his electric guitar, turns all the knobs to maximum, and strikes a chord. The resulting sound blast propels him backward, destroying the amplifier. The phone rings and Marty answers. It's Doc, who apologizes for being absent and asks Marty to meet him at the Twin Pines Mall at 1:15 a.m. for an experiment. Doc reminds Marty not to use the amplifier at full volume. Realizing he's late for school, Marty rushes out. Marty skates through the streets of Hill Valley, hitching rides by grabbing onto vehicles. He arrives at school and meets his girlfriend, Jennifer Parker, who tells him to enter through another entrance, but is caught by Principal Strickland, who reprimands him for his tardiness and warns him about hanging out with Doc Brown, labeling him a slacker. Marty and his band audition for the school's Battle of the Bands. They perform an energetic rendition of The Power of Love, but the judges, including a teacher played by Huey Lewis himself, quickly stop them, saying they're just too darn loud. Disappointed, Marty confides Jennifer about his fears of ending up like his parents. Jennifer and Marty sit near the town's iconic clock tower. A woman approaches them, asking them to donate to the Save the Clock Tower campaign, explaining that the clock has been non-functional since it was struck by lightning in 1955. Jennifer writes her phone number on the back of the flyer, gives it to Marty, and kisses him before they part ways. Marty returns home to find his father, George McFly, being bullied by his supervisor, Biff Tannen. Biff complaining about a car accident and blaming George for making him work late. During dinner, Marty's older siblings, Dave and Linda, discuss their lackluster lives. Marty's mother, Lorraine, recounts how she and George met, when her father hit him with a car, and emphasizes the enchantment of their first kiss at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Marty feels increasingly frustrated with his family's stagnation. Late at night, Marty arrives at the Twin Pines Mall with Doc's dog, Einstein. Dr. Emmett Doc Brown emerges, revealing a DeLorean DMC-12 sports car modified into a time machine. He demonstrates the time machine by using Einstein as a test subject, setting the car's destination time to 1 minute into the future. Doc uses a remote control to accelerate the DeLorean towards them. Just before impact, the car disappears in a flash of light, leaving fire trails on the pavement. Exactly 1 minute later, the DeLorean reappears, and Einstein is unharmed. The car's exterior is covered in ice due to temporal displacement. Doc explains to Marty that the key to time travel is the flux capacitor, an invention he conceptualized after hitting his head in 1955. He shows Marty the plutonium chamber, explaining that the time machine requires 1.21 gigawatts of power to operate, which is supplied by plutonium. As Doc prepares for a trip to the future, Libyan terrorists arrive in a Volkswagen van. Doc confesses that he deceived them to obtain the plutonium, providing them with a fake bomb casing filled with used pinball machine parts. The terrorists open fire, and Doc is shot multiple times. In a panic, Marty jumps into the DeLorean and speeds away. As he tries to evade the terrorists, he inadvertently activates the time circuits and accelerates to 88 miles per hour, triggering the time travel process. He is transported back to November 5, 1955. Marty crashes into a scarecrow and then a barn on the old Peabody farm. The Peabody family mistakes him for an alien due to his radiation suit. Marty escapes as they shoot at him, running over one of the twin pine trees on the property. Marty hides the DeLorean behind the Lyon Estates billboard and walks into town. He observes the quaint 1950s setting, including period-specific cars, fashion, and advertisements. Confused and disoriented, he realizes he has traveled back in time. Entering Lou's Cafe, Marty tries to make a phone call to find Doc Brown's address. He encounters a younger version of his father, George McFly, being bullied by Biff Tannen and his gang. Marty is shocked to see his father as a teenager. Marty follows George after he leaves the cafe. He discovers that George is a peeping Tom, watching Lorraine from a tree as she undresses. George falls from the tree into the path of an oncoming car. Marty pushes him out of the way and is hit by the car himself. Marty wakes up in Lorraine's bedroom, thinking it's a dream. A young Lorraine tends to him, calling him Calvin Klein due to the name on his underwear. She becomes infatuated with him, exhibiting an immediate romantic interest. Marty joins the Baines family for dinner. He meets Lorraine's siblings, including a young Milton, who is fascinated by Marty's futuristic devices. Marty awkwardly navigates the conversation, accidentally revealing knowledge about future events and television shows. Realizing he needs help, Marty tracks down Doc Brown's residence. Doc is skeptical of Marty's claims until Marty recounts the story of the flux capacitor and how Doc conceived it. Doc accepts that Marty is from the future when he shows him the DeLorean. Doc explains that without plutonium, there's no way to generate the 1.21 gigawatts needed for the time machine. Marty shows him the flyer about the clock tower being struck by lightning. They devise a plan to harness the lightning's energy to power the DeLorean. Marty shows Doc a photograph of himself with his siblings. He notices that his brother Dave is fading from the picture. Doc deduces that Marty's interference has disrupted his parents' meeting, jeopardizing his and his siblings' existence. Marty attempts to set up George and Lorraine. He and Doc approach George at school and find out that Biff is constantly bullying George. Marty encourages George to ask Lorraine to the dance, but George is reluctant, lacking confidence and fearing rejection. Marty discovers George's passion for science fiction writing and tries to boost his confidence by suggesting he share his stories. However, George resists, afraid of criticism. Biff harasses Lorraine in the school cafeteria. Marty intervenes, but just as he's about to get beaten by Biff, the principal intervenes. Marty impresses Lorraine, further complicating the situation as she becomes interested in him. Marty dresses in his radiation suit and sneaks into George's bedroom at night. Pretending to be Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan, he threatens George with a fictional brain melting unless he asks Lorraine to the dance. The next day, George is more motivated. George attempts to ask Lorraine out in the cafe, but falters. Marty intervenes, trying to coach him through the process. Biff interrupts, leading to another confrontation where Biff tries to punch Marty, but Marty punches him first and makes an escape, which makes Lorraine become even more interested in him. Marty grabs a makeshift skateboard from a boy and leads Biff and his gang on a high-speed chase through the town square. The pursuit ends with Biff crashing his car into a manure truck, covering him and his friends in manure. Lorraine becomes even more enamored with Marty, tracking him down to Doc's house. She asks him to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Marty reluctantly agrees, realizing he needs to find a way to redirect her affections toward George. Marty and Doc devise a plan where Marty will feign inappropriate advances on Lorraine during the dance, allowing George to intervene heroically. Doc warns Marty about the consequences of revealing future events, particularly concerning his own fate. Doc begins setting up the equipment necessary to harness the lightning strike. He strings cables from the clock tower to the street, meticulously planning the timing required for the DeLorean to receive the lightning's energy. Marty writes a letter to Doc, warning him about his impending death in 1985. Doc refuses to accept it, tearing up the letter and emphasizing the importance of preserving the timeline. On the night of the dance, Marty and Lorraine sit in the parked car outside the school. Marty is uncomfortable, but Lorraine surprises him by being more forward than expected. She kisses him but remarks that it feels like kissing her brother, indicating a lack of true romantic connection. Biff and his gang arrive, pulling Marty out of the car. They lock him in the trunk of a performing band's vehicle. Biff forces himself on Lorraine, escalating the threat. The band members help free Marty, but injure their lead guitarist's hand in the process. George approaches the car, expecting to confront Marty as planned. Instead, he finds Biff assaulting Lorraine. Summoning courage, George tells Biff to leave her alone. Biff initially overpowers George, but George finally stands up, punching Biff and knocking him out. George and Lorraine enter the dance, but the band is unable to perform due to the injured guitarist. Marty steps in to play guitar, ensuring his parents share their first dance and kiss. As they dance to Earth Angel, Marty begins to fade from existence when another student cuts in, but George intervenes again, and they share their first kiss, restoring Marty's existence. Feeling triumphant, Marty decides to perform an upbeat song, Johnny Be Good. His energetic performance astonishes the audience. He becomes carried away, playing in styles reminiscent of future rock genres, confusing the 1950s crowd. Realizing he's ahead of his time, he wraps up the performance awkwardly. Marty says goodbye to George and Lorraine, offering them parting advice. He suggests they should always stand up for themselves and hints that they might have a son who could be a handful. Marty races to meet Doc at the clock tower. Unexpectedly, the DeLorean fails to start. Simultaneously, a fallen tree limb disconnects the crucial cable. Doc climbs the clock tower to reconnect it while Marty struggles to start the car. As the lightning strike approaches, Doc successfully reconnects the cable. Marty finally starts the DeLorean and accelerates toward the wire. At the precise moment, lightning strikes the clock tower, sending the necessary 1.21 gigawatts of electricity through the cable and into the flux capacitor. The DeLorean disappears in a flash of light. Marty arrives back in 1985, crashing into the now Lone Pine Mall sign, a nod to his earlier destruction of one of the pine trees in 1955. He witnesses the Libyan terrorists attacking Doc as before. This time, Doc is prepared, wearing a bulletproof vest, revealing that he taped Marty's warning letter back together. Doc drops Marty off at home and departs for the future in the DeLorean. Marty wakes up the next morning to find significant changes in his family. His home is more luxurious, and his siblings are successful. Dave is a businessman, and Linda is confident and social. George is now a successful, confident author, having published his first science fiction novel. Lorraine is happy and fit. Biff, now a subservient auto detailer, is waxing George's car. Marty is bewildered but pleased with the positive changes. Jennifer arrives at Marty's house, confused about why he didn't meet her earlier as planned. Before they can discuss it, the DeLorean returns abruptly. Doc emerges now dressed in futuristic attire and acting more eccentric than ever. Doc insists that Marty and Jennifer accompany him to the future, explaining that something needs to be done about their kids. Marty questions the need for the urgency, but Doc begins loading garbage into the DeLorean's Mr. Fusion reactor, indicating an upgrade from plutonium. As they prepare to leave, Marty points out that they don't have enough road to reach 88 miles per hour. Doc responds, "Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads." The DeLorean lifts off the ground, converts into a flying car, and soars into the sky, heading toward the future. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.